13-year pro and MLS Cup champion Quincy, a.k.a. The Chip Amarikwa, presents the Perfect Soccer Podcast, where your host goes one-on-one to get to know your favorite and aspiring pro players and coaches both on and off the pitch. Today's episode is sponsored by the Perfect Soccer Ball. Buy 10 Perfect Soccer Balls for only $100. This special is now available for purchase at perfectsoccerskills.com/ball. Today's episode is also sponsored by the Perfect Soccer Uniform. Custom designed jerseys and full uniforms starting from $25. Place your order for purchase at perfectsoccerskills.com/uniform. If you have any special requests or know someone perfect to be a guest on our podcast, please send us an email to contact@perfectsoccerskills.com. Thanks, and we hope you enjoy today's episode.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Perfect Soccer Podcast. Our special guest today is Justin Mapp. Justin, how's it going?
Going well. Thanks for having me. Doing well. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you coming on. Let's just go right into it. Most recently, you just played in the soccer tournament with the Sneaky Fox. So tell me about that experience.
Yeah, honestly, probably one of the coolest experiences I've had in soccer, and I've had a lot of pretty cool experiences over the years, professional and whatnot. So it was like a youth tournament all over, like back when you were a kid, multiple games in one day with your best friends. Pressure, but not real pressure. So you're able to enjoy it. But, we were obviously trying to win. So it was just fun. Saw a lot of old friends, teammates, players I played against. So it was kind of a reunion. And probably, like I said, one of the coolest experiences. And, I'll definitely try and go each year for sure.
Yeah, that's dope. And then what did you, I think you guys, I know you lost 2 games in the opening round, but what was it? Did you guys, going into the third game, you knew the scenario of what you guys had to do? Because when I was watching, I thought you guys were out when you lost, but then you guys were into the next round because of, I guess, how the points worked.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about it as a team, but I think some of us who had done the math, and I think Mike McGee, the coach, and a few of the coaches knew if we lost by a certain amount of goals, we would still advance. So I think only losing by 1 put us through, but we didn't really say that to anybody, just maybe didn't want it to alter how we played. But I knew whenever the final whistle blew, okay, we lost, we were still through. But yeah, it was dicey. If we'd have lost by 2, we were out. So it was really did come down to that goal differential. But I don't think the whole team knew. Obviously everyone was relieved when they found out, okay, we're still advancing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So at the end, were people pissed, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh wait, we're in the next round?
Yeah, obviously disappointed to lose the game. That would have helped us get a better seeding, in the knockouts. But we told everyone, hey, look, guys, we're through. Disappointed, but hey, we're still living to fight another day. So it was kind of a weird moment, but hey, we're through, so it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I know you guys were put in a tough bracket because of last year, because they made it so far too. But yeah, overall, for me as a fan, I enjoy it more than watching regular soccer, just because it's just more exciting, and there's a lot of goals, obviously, and then the comebacks. I'm sure you've seen. I think the team, it was a new record. They came back for 4 goals. It was crazy.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, probably not how you draw it up as a team initially, but hey, the extra time, target score made it very interesting. So even if you're into the game, you're down, you still have a fighting chance. So I kind of like that wrinkle to it.
For sure. All right, now let's go back in time a little bit. What was your first memory of playing soccer?
Honestly, back in Mississippi, is where I'm from. Playing rec soccer. I think my dad was the coach, and he didn't have 6, 7 years old. He had no idea about soccer. But yeah, back in Mississippi, just rec soccer, then just kind of progressed from there, travel soccer and so forth. But back in Mississippi, back in the day. So that's kind of my first memory.
Yeah. Then in your youth career, I guess how did you end up at IMG Academy?
Yeah, it was just kind of I think my generation, ODP, which I'm sure you're aware of. I think it's still around, but it's kind of changed a bit with the academy setup. But that was kind of how you got discovered back in the day. Your state team, regional team, and then ultimately national team. But that was kind of the way to progress yourself to the youth national team and ultimately end up with the U17s at IMG Academy. So, now there's all these MLS academies, et cetera. So the landscape has changed, but, that was the way to be discovered back then.
Yeah, definitely. And then I guess was there like a certain point that you knew you were like really good?
I mean, I knew I had something going for sure, but, it's one of those things every time you move up to the next level, you kind of see, hey, okay, there's a lot more to this than being the best in Mississippi or being the best in the Southeast, or even with the youth national team now playing obviously other countries and seeing, hey, there's always another level to it. So I knew I had something, but you just don't know what you don't know until you see that next level. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I know, obviously you were, it was a while ago that you were at IMG Academy, but like everyone knows now that like pretty much if you go there, you have like a high chance of, going pro.
Yeah. No, it's, I was there this last year. It's the first time I'd been back to IMG in a long time, and the place has changed. And I think they've got every single sport there now. Obviously sports specific. It's like a college campus for young athletes, which is, it's pretty incredible what they have going on now. But when I was there, it was a little more in its infancy, and I think soccer, tennis, they had golf, but they didn't have basketball, football. Now they have everything. So, yeah,
for sure. And then I guess what made you go pro and not go to college?
I don't. It's been so long. I don't remember the exact thing, but it's just an opportunity. Hey, kind of knew I always wanted to be a pro. And the opportunity presented itself, and hey, I had a chance to fulfill a dream. And people ask, would you go do it different if you could redo it? And I don't think so. I'd obviously be cool to have the college experience even for a year or two, but just a decision me and my family made at the time, and it worked out. So
yeah. And then going into the draft, you were drafted 4th overall. Did you have a projection in your mind like what pick you were gonna go?
Honestly, I had no idea. I remember playing in the combine in Florida. The draft, I think our draft was in Orlando. I had a really good draft, but I mean, you're also drafting against players a lot older than myself, so I didn't really know. I don't remember there being much discussion with teams, so it was kind of a surprise, where I was going to go from what I remember.
Yeah. I mean, well, 4th overall, that's really good.
Yeah, it worked out well.
Yeah. And go take me through that. Like after what are you, like 18?
Yeah, I think I was drafted when I was 17. 2002. Yeah, that would have been 17. And I had a deal because I was so young with DC. I was still in high school. Drafted, I think, in like January. I had a deal with DC United to finish high school 6 months. So stay in Mississippi in the spring. And then I joined them in the summer. But I remember a few times, they didn't really have reserve teams back then. So if a couple players got injured, the bench was kind of thin. So I remember a couple times I would fly from Mississippi just for the game, just to sit on the bench, to make numbers for DC United for the game. But I hadn't trained with them or anything. And then I'd fly back home, go to high school on Monday. So it was kind of a weird dynamic. And my friends are like, how was the game on the weekend? They're just normal high school kids in Mississippi. So that was kind of an interesting dynamic. Joined them in the summer, and then that's kind of when I started my career.
Yeah. What did your teacher say when you were like, I can't like come to class, or like I have to leave early. I have to go to my
you don't mind if I leave early on Friday? I have to fly to DC to not play, but sit on the bench. I guess something crazy happens, I might go in, but I hadn't been training or anything with the team. So, but just to make up numbers for the 18. So, my friends always thought it was pretty wild, and looking back on it, was pretty interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
So.
Enjoy learning what it takes to become a better player from professional soccer players? Well, how would you like to work with professional players one-on-one? Now you can with Be Pro by Perfect Soccer. Head over to perfectsoccerskills.com/BEPRO to apply to work with our network of pro players today.
So the next year did you get traded to Chicago?
Yeah. Yeah. At the end of that year. So I wasn't in DC more than 3 or 4 months, traded to Chicago in that off season. And then, I was in Chicago almost 8 years. So that's kind of where I really stay in my mind that I started my career, coming in for a preseason fair chance. And that's kind of where I look at my career as actually starting. So.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then, overall, how would you describe your career in Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of fond memories. I think my first year we won the Supporters Shield, won 2 Open Cups there, had a lot of success. My first team was probably one of the best teams, if not the best team I played on in my whole career, with the likes of DeMarcus Beasley, Jesse Marsh, Jim Curtin, Chris Armas, Ante Razov. And I could, CJ Brown could go down the list, but that's kind of, they taught me how to be pros. We had a lot of good veterans on that team. Obviously, a lot of those players I named are in coaching positions these days. So we had a really strong group, and just where I played almost half my career, and a lot of success, and kind of where I learned to be a professional as an 18, 19-year-old.
Yeah, definitely. Could you recall your first goal?
Honestly, I don't think I can. I'd really have to think about that. But I know our first year when I was there, we were playing in Naperville, Illinois, at I think a college stadium turf with like football lines. This is like old school MLS. With 3,000 or 4,000 people in the stands. So, to see that progression from that to where it is now is just like crazy to think about. But yeah, I'd really have to think about that. Off the top of my head, I don't think so.
For sure, yeah.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. So was your first All Star game was it 2010?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. So all right. So I got a question because it's interesting. So you were named best 9 in 2006, or best 11, I mean.
Yeah.
And so is that like weird to you that you weren't an All-Star like that season?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, looking back, obviously the best 11 is, I guess, over the course of the whole season. So maybe the All-Star is the first half. So maybe, I don't remember the season specific, but maybe I came on strong late in the year to get that honor. But just on the surface, you're like, if I was best 11, I probably should have been All-Star too. But again, it could be a course of the whole season thing. So I don't really remember.
For sure. Which one means more to you?
I think best 11, like I said, it's your whole body of work over the year. I think some of the All-Star stuff, from what I remember, is fan voting. So it can be a little bit of a popularity contest. Not that a lot of those players aren't deserving, but I think best 11 is voted only by mainly the players at the end of the year. And obviously it gives your whole body of work over the year. So for me, best 11 is probably the highest honor you can get in a year, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually crazy too, because MLB just like adopted that like a few years ago, like all MLB.
Yeah.
Because it was always kind of flawed, like I thought too, with the All-Star, because it would be like, they had a good half season, but then they could not have a good second half, and then it's like there's other players that did well in the second, or maybe the whole year and they were consistent, but it didn't look good at the half, and then
Yeah. So, and like I said, some of the All-Star, people want to see the stars. So even if maybe they're not having the best year so far, like people still want to see them and entertainment. So I get it. But yeah, I look at the best 11 is I guess a little more meaningful.
Yeah, for sure. And then throughout your career, you played after that, you played for Philadelphia, Montreal, and then Sporting Kansas City. So just take me through some of those memories.
Yeah, so traded, after a long time in Chicago, Philly, year and a half. They were kind of an expansion team. So like any expansion team, it's kind of a bit of uncertainty, whether it's facilities, it just takes a little while for clubs to figure it out. And so I remember being there We didn't have a training facility, using like a public field, and not ideal, but other than that, good year out. I was kind of reconnected with Jesse Marsh, who I played with in Chicago. Brought me in the expansion draft to Montreal, spent 4 years there, and had really good 4 years there. 2 Canadian championships. We played in the CONCACAF Champions League final. Played with some big players, Didier Drogba, Marco De Bayo, etc. So my years in Montreal are very fond of me. And then my last year, I went as a free agent to KC, and went there injured, didn't play much. And, at that point, mentally, physically, I was just kind of done and decided to call it a day. But I would say after Chicago, I look at Montreal as kind of the second best part of my career. So.
Yeah, definitely. And then just from a logistics standpoint, what's the difference between like living in the US and living in Canada?
Yeah, I didn't know much about Montreal to begin with, other than it's probably going to be cold there. But yeah, I remember driving to Philly in a snowstorm right before preseason to Montreal, and it's, one of those things right when you cross into Quebec from upstate New York, everything switches to the metric system. So kilometers, etc. French verse. So it seemed like you're in France, but it's kind of a mix of North America is how I describe it to people. But really cool city, just very cold place. But big soccer community, very diverse population, Portuguese, Brazilian, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a unique experience, still being, not in Europe. You still kind of got a little bit of that taste of kind of a European vibe and culture. So I enjoyed it.
For sure. And then, what did it mean to you to be on the USA national team?
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people, a lot of great memories in MLS, but, representing your country, I think most would agree that it's whether you do it one time or lucky enough to do it 100 times, just put that jersey on one time. On that day, you're representing your country, and you're one of the best 11 chosen to represent it. That means highlighting my career. Like I said, whether it's one time or 100 times, those are probably the one I'll look back on most fondly.
Yeah, definitely. And with the World Cup coming up in the US, I think it's gonna. Obviously, I think soccer been growing and growing, but I feel like it's really gonna like blow up now in the US.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of a pivotal point. I mean, It's grown a lot, but haven't had one in here since '94. With in our backyard, promising group. Obviously, the coaching change now, and anxious to see who they get to lead us into that. But yeah, I mean, a chance to bring even more people and grow the game even more. I mean, it's just a massive, massive opportunity, and it'll be here, pretty quick. So
for sure. All right, you ready for the Quincy questions? You're gonna have to.
Okay, I don't know. Quincy questions. I'm scared. Could go a lot of different directions, I feel like.
Yeah, they could.
All right.
What's the most important skill you feel like made you successful as a pro player?
Most important skill, I think just mentally. Obviously, I think everyone that gets that level has the talent, physical skill, but mentally, I think over my career, just learned to deal with different situations. I mean, I had a lot of ups, but a lot of downs too. And I think if you play long enough, you will. So just mentally being able to kind of get back up and grind through the difficult moments. So,
yeah. What's the biggest mistake you think pro players are making?
Biggest mistake? It's tough to say for sure, but I would say, in this social media age, a lot of people, and I'm not saying every kid's doing this, but, they want to get the likes, the et cetera, and maybe not putting in the real work or doing stuff behind the scenes that people don't see. I'm not saying players aren't doing that, but, everything's for show these days, and, the social media, which we didn't really have when I was growing up. And I kind of look at it as a blessing in disguise, but, knowing the difference between that and putting in real work to actually make yourself better, I think, is a challenge for this generation.
Yeah, definitely. It's like social media is good and bad, and
pros and cons to all of it. But are you really doing what you need to do to get better and improve, or are you just doing pretend or show like you're doing what you're doing? So,
For sure.
Pros and cons.
Yeah. What advice would you give to a young player?
I think it would go kind of along the lines of the last question. All that social media is great, but know where you need to get better and put in the real work. And that's maybe grinding when people aren't watching. No attention or fanfare, but know where you need to get better and actually go out and on a field, whether it's by yourself or a coach, and improve on it. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Why are you passionate about soccer?
It's been my life. Love the game. It's given me a lot of opportunities to play a game. I've traveled a lot of places for this game and seen a lot of the world. And I love it. Watch all these games, and I'm just a soccer junkie, and like a lot of us. And it's been my whole life. So it's kind of just what I know.
For sure. All right, these next two could either be, you could answer them in soccer terms or life terms.
Okay.
What's something that most people think is true that you believe isn't?
Most people think is true. I don't know if most people think this, but for the ones that think Cristiano is better than Messi, I'm just letting them in on a fun fact that indeed is false, and Messi's the GOAT. So I'll keep it soccer.
I like that. What's something you would move forward with if you weren't scared of what would happen if things didn't go well?
I would say coaching. Kind of in the coaching world these days, so keeping it to soccer. I think just like a player, coaches have a lot of ups and downs, which I'm kind of learning that as a young coach. And I think you got to believe in your ability as a coach as well, and whether you have the results with the team, keep moving forward, and just like a player, trying to improve. So.
For sure. Are you ready for some fun questions?
Sure, let's do it.
Yeah, so you already took one of them. It's usually Messi or Ronaldo, but so you already answered that.
Yeah.
Give me like who was like a couple of your favorite players growing up?
Growing up, I was a left-footed kind of winger, so I remember watching when I was young. Ryan Giggs, Man United, left foot. Him. I always liked Arjen Robben, who was not necessarily when I was young watching him, probably similar ages, but the left-footed wingers are always, and left-footed players in general, I kind of always gravitate towards. So those are kind of two kind of try to style my game after, and we're kind of fans of.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Who would you want to do a jersey exchange with? Let's go like all time, and then like maybe like one that you didn't get while you were playing.
Well, I would say Messi, of course. Although
which one? Which jersey?
I would probably get a Messi Argentina, which I remember in the 2000s having Copa America. We played Argentina and Messi in the first game, and I remember running through my mind like, should I even try? But I know every single player is going to probably beeline toward him, so I'm like, my chances are slim. So Messi Argentina or Barca kit.
Well, that's cool.
And then my style was always kind of didn't really go for maybe the biggest or name on the field. I always usually traded with teammates or friends or players I've played with before. That was kind of my MO. So I have a lot of my friends' jerseys from different teams, whether we play with national team or maybe on a previous MLS team. So yeah, maybe a Beckham kit would have been nice when he played for Galaxy, but yeah, overall, I got some cool jerseys.
For sure. Last one. If you didn't become a pro soccer player, what do you think you would have done?
Oof. I would have gone to college for sure, which I didn't do. Man, I don't know. It's kind of scary to think about. Probably in real estate or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Justin. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and could you let the listeners know where they can follow you at?
Yeah, appreciate it, Paul. Yeah, you can follow me Instagram JMapp at JMAPP or on Twitter JMapp21. So appreciate you having me and enjoyed it.
Quincy Amarikwa here, and thanks again for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to share it with someone you feel will get some value from it. And if you could take a moment to leave a review of our podcast wherever you're listening and let us know who you'd like us to interview next, we'll get working on that right away. You can listen to this full episode and more at perfectsoccerskills.com/radio. That's perfectsoccerskills.com/RADIO. You can also enter to win free weekly soccer prizes, goals, balls, jerseys, player meet and greets, and more by heading over to perfectsoccerskills.com/PSTM to enter to win for free today.